Well, hello everyone. I'm going to be talking in this video about an article I read recently in a journal called Microorganisms titled Leaky Gut, Leaky Brain. And it's really this idea that what happens in the gut, in fact, does not just stay in the gut, but it can have ramifications outside of the gut and affect other organ systems. And in this case, they were addressing the brain directly. And so before I go any farther, though, I want to really talk about what leaky gut even is. And so I have this visual here where we can see that in the gut we have nice tight junctions, okay, indicated by these little components here. But when it becomes leaky and permeable, we can see over here that these different toxins and pathogens can actually leach out from inside the intestines and get right into the bloodstream. And this then means that there can be just a systemic infection, and the body can actually travel anywhere in the body at that point and really wreak havoc in that regard. And so this is talking about gut permeability, but really the same type of thing can actually happen when it comes to the blood-brain barrier as well. And we're going to be addressing that in just a minute here, but I'm going to read just really a couple different quotes from the article. We'll break this down. And so right off the bat, they wanted to make known that a key point to follow is what happens when the integrity of the intestinal blood barrier is compromised. And it goes on to say it has the potential to affect a host of other organ systems. Okay, this is exactly what I was just mentioning, that what happens in the gut has the ability to then impact everything else body wide, especially the brain. And so they go on to say dysfunction of the blood brain barrier, which, by the way, this is a barrier to prevent toxins and pathogens from entering the brain from the blood, but it's also selectively permeable to things like oxygen and glucose and things the brain needs. But again, when there's an inflammatory component, when there is compromise in that barrier, different toxins can cross and get into the brain. And it goes on to say when we have this leaky brain, then it can be linked to various neurological diseases, things like autism spectrum disorder, dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, and schizophrenia. Really just a host of neurological disorders and impairments can result. And so another place of the article says that different inflammatory mediators, things like lipopolysaccharide, what that is an endotoxin on the membrane of gram-negative bacteria that can be found in the gut. And so that endotoxin can actually leak out of the gut, travel in the bloodstream, and that can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause just terrible challenges in that regard to the brain. We can see things like headaches and migraines, brain fog, forgetfulness, slow recall of information, and even more serious things like ALS and MS, especially things long term. And so a host of negative things can happen when these toxins can get into the brain, and it really just starts from the gut compromise itself. And so it also talked about that abnormal behavior and cognition can also result from something called dysbiosis. And dysbiosis is a condition in the gut where there's an improper ratio of the good to the bad microbes, okay? There's too many bad microbes, or maybe it's too much yeast or candida built up, or just bad bacteria. And because of that, it can actually start to perforate the intestinal lining and be a major factor when it comes to the leaky brain scenario as well. An interesting point here too, I was reading another article getting ready for this talk here that talked about broad spectrum antibiotics can be a really huge proponent of the dysbiosis, because actually a round of that can cause a 30% disruption in the microbial balance in the community and in the diversity and the richness of the gut population. And so that can be a major factor when it comes to dysbiosis, which then again can lead to some of these leaky brain kind of situation, all the symptoms that can come with that. And so that is just something for me why when I work with patients, there's often such a huge emphasis on the gut, because it's so important for everything else body wide. And I love Genova has a test, GIFX, that can really map out what's going on in the intestinal environment super well. That can be a great test to look into. But when it comes to some health promoting foods, okay, we want to focus on things like coconut oil, coconut water kefir, apple cider vinegar, bone broth with collagen peptides, pumpkin seeds, things like ginger and peppermint can be very therapeutic and soothing on digestion. And then let's see, we got ghee is a good one as well. And then fermented vegetables as well, like kimchi and sauerkraut. These are going to be some of the top foods that really combat leaky gut, to get that dysbiosis out of the way and really to strengthen and bolster the gut lining, which can really prevent, again, the intestinal permeability kind of thing. And in addition to that, we want to focus on really lowering levels of cortisol, because high levels of stress and living in a sympathetic dominant state is just a total potent carcinogen to the body and can really, really disrupt the gut lining and cause permeability issues in that regard. And then obviously things like just proper mindset too. Faith-filled thinking, getting enough exercise, proper sleep quality as well, and getting enough sleep during the night. And so these are going to be kind of a whole well-rounded approach when it comes to combating this leaky gut. And so I just wanted to bring some attention to a couple articles I read recently, really pointing to when there is compromise in the GI barrier, that those toxins, those antigens, these pathogens can leak out, get into the bloodstream. They can actually cross the blood-brain barrier and cause just terrible issues in the brain. Again, things like migraines and headaches, brain fog, that lack of concentration, lack of focus, even things that can be more serious, again, like the ALS, the MS, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, some of these types of issues. And so we want to really focus on getting a lot of the anti-inflammatory foods out of the way, focusing on some of these health-promoting foods, minimizing the cortisol, getting enough sleep, exercising properly, and really making sure we can think positive, faith-filled, optimistic thoughts through the day to really put our mind in a healthful place where we're not going to further generate high levels of cortisol. So guys, I hope you can implement some of these health promoting steps. If we can seal up that gut, get that dysbiosis out of the way, it's going to have so many positive ramifications when it comes to brain health, but also things can improve like thyroid conditions, joint pain can lessen, mood can be elevated. So many healthful things can come when it comes to just making sure we have a healthful gut. So guys, thanks for watching this video. Hope you can implement some of these steps, and I look forward to seeing you soon in another video. Take care.